Obviously, the Clean Power Plan just came down finally, the final rule, and the state is likely going to have to comply. I know you're going to continue to fight it in the courts, you've said, but are we going to comply, and do we come up with a state plan for this?
Well, I am the only Democratic Attorney General in the country, Jacqueline, to sue the EPA over this particular plan. And if you'll note, just this past summer on one of the lawsuits that we helped file on another EPA rule, the Supreme Court just ruled, it's called the MATS rule, but the Supreme Court just ruled that the EPA had exceeded its mandate, that they didn't do a cost-benefit analysis. So they invalidated the rule and sent it back. So here you have the EPA proposed a rule, a bunch of utilities complied with it and retired some coal-fired generation, and then the Supreme Court comes along and says, no, that's not a legitimate rule. I think that's where we are with the latest Clean Power Plan. The EPA is re-regulating in areas that they've already regulated, and they can't do that under the Clean Air Act. And they're violating their own statute. This rule came about largely because of a lawsuit that other states had filed that wanted to drive up our power costs. And northeastern states filed for this rule because one of the reasons they do it is because we have cheaper power here. Jacqueline, there's a reason we have so many auto plants and we have so many aluminum smelters and steel plants here in Kentucky. It's because of our low cost of power. And we need to stand up for that. And we need to stand up for our coal communities, particularly in eastern Kentucky. So this is an example of me taking on my own party, putting Kentucky first. I'll always put the people of Kentucky first. And when you say, are we going to have to comply? I don't know. I'm not going to develop a state implementation plan while we have a lawsuit pending. I can tell you that. I can tell you that. And it's always an option not to submit a plan. But as long as we're litigating, and I think we have a good chance of having the courts, especially in light of this recent Supreme Court opinion, we have a good chance of the courts striking down this rule. We're going to continue down this path as long as I'm Attorney General and hopefully when I'm governor.
Now, is this lawsuit going to be done in time before states have to comply, or else they're subject to the federal
I hope
compliance?
so. I think we'll certainly have a trial court opinion, I would think, before or out of the D.C. Circuit. Actually, I should back up. We've appealed to the D.C. Circuit, so we should have that initial opinion here before the plan is due. And if we get up against some deadlines, we can always ask the court to stay the EPA's imposed deadline pending the outcome of this litigation, and I think that's entirely reasonable.